So, how do you make your drawings more flowy? That is what we're going to talk about in this episode. While I critique one of the drawings from students of drawing camp, you get the idea, right? I'm going to take one of the drawings from the students and then critique it. That's the deal. Let's get into it. Alright, so I have a question right here from Lena van der Berg. I think I'm pronouncing her name wrong, clearly. Well, the question is this, right? I'm having a bit of trouble understanding flow because we talk about flow in your drawings. If you look at, say, some of my drawings, for example, such as this one, I try to incorporate flow in pretty much all my drawings with minuscule kind of things. It's sort of like, some people call it gesture drawing, I call it flow, some people call it force. It doesn't matter what you call it, it just breathes life into your art. There is a class in drawing camp on movement and flow and how to sort of incorporate it or see it in your drawing. Or Lena is asking, I'm struggling to understand how to put shapes together to convey harmony. Is it, for instance, if I draw a circle, then the next shape should piggyback on the circle form and the energy so it creates an outward movement? The thing is, I understand what you want us to do, but I'm not quite sure how to do it. Lena, no worries, right? I got your back, right? This is how you do it. This is how you sort of incorporate flow. I'll give you a step-by-step framework or a process. Forget all the details. We need to work with the basic structure of the drawing to breathe flow into it, to breathe force or gesture or movement into it, and then you do all the detailed stuff later on. This is how it works. All right, so we got another drawing from another student because Lena, you didn't post your work. Why, Lena? Why? Right? From another student who's drawn this drawing. Let me sort of use this drawing as an example to draw or demonstrate this idea. So we got a reference here. He's probably went ahead and drawn here, Kishan Rajan. Well, and how do you start? How do you do this? I'll sort of walk through my process. The way I think about it is this one. Line of action is a common thing that you've probably heard, right? But there is more to it. You need to see it on a multi-level layer thing, right? That's how the real pros do it, you know? The pros of the world. So first is this line of action. When I see this drawing, I feel like, okay, the line of action is sort of somewhere around this particular area. Now, the line of action often is influenced by gravity to most extent. Something is pulling you down and you're sort of working against it, or your reference photo or your object is sort of working against it, right? So this thing is trying to go like boom, right, like that. You gotta feel and just understand how your subject moves, right? That is one. Now, I like to also think of the line of emotion. Now, this is something that I actually made up, which I often use in my work, which is like, what is the feeling? Right? What is the main feeling that is happening? The line of emotion is sort of like the object is sort of in the middle of a movement right here, like it's from this moment. It's like boom. So I'll just start with this thing, right? So Kishan, you've done a good job in capturing all the details, right? But what we need to actually work on before you add all the details like the shading and all that stuff, what we actually need to do is just work on the basic structure which does not involve any detail whatsoever, right? So I draw the line of action and then I look for the largest form, right? I look for the largest form, which is the body, the bodily form. So now I'm trying to capture the major form around the line of action. You all probably know this thing. This is one. Now, the second question is, Lena, you're asking, should the next form sort of piggyback, on this particular main core form that you have drawn? It shouldn't piggyback that. You need to think of, say, the different shapes in your drawings as different states in a country. One, the country needs to have a central level coherence, which is the line of action. That gives you a central structure, the spine. And then you need to have, say, state level coherence. State level coherence is sort of you're taking the shapes, right? And then you're sort of putting it along, say, in harmony with the nearby shapes. Now, which shapes go in harmony with which shapes? That is a question, right? What you always do is the largest shape, I just take that and then I just try to sort of mimic the movement of that particular thing and put it right here. So for this particular thing, I'm sort of exaggerating. I'm sort of pulling the head out and then we're reworking the central core shape to make it a bit more, what do you say, in line with the line of action. So you got the line of action and then you drew the shapes that sort of went along with the line of action. Now, what is important on the state level coherence part, right? Now, if I'm sort of confusing you with all that terms, it's simple, right? Central, line of action, state, these shapes are the states, and these states have outlines, right? These are the borders of the state, right? These things need to form or flow with that either line of action or that line of motion. Simple. You just look at the energy the line of action is taking, you just like boom. This is the energy, the invisible energy that you don't see, and what you simply do is you build around that, right? So it's like your lines should attract towards that thing, that particular energy. If you look at all the lines of the different shape, it attracts towards that particular energy, and that is what you actually want. So it's sort of like the states are working with the central government and to sort of make the country a peaceful, harmonious nation, right? That's how your drawing should be. It's a peaceful, harmonious nation with different states in it, and each state is a shape and is controlled by the central government, which is the line of action. The next thing that I simply do is just try to mimic the shapes, the large shapes that I see, and then try to attract each line of the shape, the border of the shape, right? And sort of try to attract it towards that particular line of action. Now, in certain cases, it just doesn't happen, right? For example, this particular line right here, it's going in a different direction, right? But still being pulled a little bit. So you can choose to do that, or maybe, you know, instead of putting a straight line right here, see, instead of doing that, I'm just gonna put a more curved line like this, because this thing is attracting, it's pulling, right? But there are joints right here. It's sort of stopping that line from sort of going out of shape, right? So that is how I sort of think. See, line of action, and then you have all these things. Now, I'm sort of so out of proportion right here, which is fine, usually it's not, but since if you're drawing more animated characters, you really don't need to care too much about proportions, but sometimes you do need to. Actually, in that case, you have to also care about proportions, but in this case, I'm not sort of doing it. Next thing that I sort of try to do is, see, I have this overall movement that I found with the bird, right? I sort of try to capture that movement with that second line of, say, emotion right there, right? It's sort of like a secondary line that is happening right here. Now, if you've got more questions on this, right, feel free to sort of drop in the comments below. I'll sort of try to, answer these things. But the idea is this: let me give you a very simple framework. Let me simplify the process even a bit more. Start with the line of action, that is your state government, and the next one is draw the major shape, sort of, in a way where the borders of that shape, aka the state border lines, are being attracted like this, towards the line of action. Like it's sort of like a center, it's like a sun that is attracting all the lines towards it. Have you seen that movie that Spider-Man 2 movie where Doc Ock creates that huge sun in the middle of New York City and everything just gets attracted towards that? That is the whole idea right here. And then you follow drawing the other shapes to your best of abilities, following the proportions and the size of the shape, and then you attract all that line towards that particular line of action, and look for another emotional line that is majorly going towards the drawing, and then same thing with that. So once you get this is what we need to get, right? Once we get this, you can go ahead and add in all the details that you want, like, all the other details of the characters, like. So to get this drawing, we need to actually draw the basic structure, right? If you're a student of Drawing Camp, just go into your program and there is a form in there where you sort of can just drop your questions. Make sure it's a specific question with a specific drawing so I can answer your problems to the best of my abilities. That's it. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.